This is Connect the World, and these are the top stories we're following this hour. US President Donald Trump is breaking with tradition, tweeting that he won't attend this year's White House Correspondents' Dinner in April. It comes amid increasingly bad blood between Mr. Trump and several media outlets. Thousands of people marched in Moscow today. It was to mark the second anniversary of the murder of Boris Nemtsov, an outspoken critic of President Vladimir Putin. The demonstrators called for freedom of speech and democracy, which Nemtsov supported. Civilians are fleeing western Mosul now as Iraqi forces pursue their campaign against ISIS militants. Iraq says its counter-terrorism forces have just liberated one southwestern neighbourhood where more than 2,000 civilians managed to escape before the raging battle. Kuala Lumpur International Airport has been declared safe by Malaysian authorities. A sweep of the terminal found no toxins where Kim Jong-nam was killed. Police say the half-brother of North Korea's leader died about 20 minutes after his face was wiped with a VX nerve agent. Returning to one of our top stories this hour, the US Democrats picking a new leader in their fight against Donald Trump. The new chairman, former Labor Secretary Tom Perez. On CNN's State of the Union, Jake Tapper asked Perez about Donald Trump's tweet that said Trump couldn't be happier for Perez or the Republican Party. Take a listen.
Congressman Ellison and I got a good kick out of that. Donald Trump up again in the morning, tweeting about us. You know, our unity as a party is our greatest strength, and it's his worst nightmare. And frankly, what we need to be looking at is whether this election was rigged by Donald Trump and his buddy Vladimir Putin. And I'll tell you, having Jeff Sessions oversee such an investigation, it's really unfair to any foxes across America to say that would be the fox guarding the hen house. We need an independent investigation because that is a serious, serious issue. And the American people need to understand whether the Russians in cahoots with the Trump folks and others rigged the election. And when Sessions and Flynn are out there together campaigning, they clearly lack the authority and the objectivity to conduct that investigation.
Well, Perez has vowed to deny President Trump a second term as Democrats look ahead to the 2020 election. But with the party so divided, that may be a tall order to fill. For more now, I'm joined by Scott Bolden, former chairman of the Washington Democratic Party. Great to have you with us, Scott.
Thank you for having me.
Firstly, Tom Perez is the first Latino to chair the Democratic Party, and he certainly sounds like he's ready for the fight against President Trump.
Very much so. You know, it's kind of been lost in the narrative that he is the first Latino party chair, which is historic in major proportions, but also that's going to help with Hispanic voters who are often split between Democrats and Republicans. But he's ready for the fight. He's a fiery orator. He's ready to take it to Trump. He'll face him point by point. He's going to be very aggressive, but he's got bigger issues within his own party that have nothing to do with Russia or Trump or what's going on in this country. He's got to win lower seats. The governorships that are coming up, there are going to be 14 open seats, but he's got to bring the Sanders Democrats, the most progressive wing of the Democratic Party, to the table. With beyond the rhetoric, they've got to be able to work together.
And speaking of trying to bring those two sides of the party together, this was a very close vote, and he, of course, had the supporters of Clinton and Obama. His closest rival, Keith Ellison, had the supporters of Sanders. He's chosen him as his deputy. How strategic was that move?
Well, again, it's very strategic because there were several Ellison supporters in the back that shouted down in Brazil with the passing of the gavel. That's significant because historically, Sanders supporters have not played nice in the, quote, sandbox, if you will, one of the challenges that Hillary Clinton had during the campaign. And so they'll have to send even more messages to the progressive wing to bring them into leadership positions, to not just talk the talk, but to walk with them, because they want power. They don't want power sharing. They want leadership. They want change, and they want to be able to control that. And he, Perez, is going to have to power share with them in order to move the party forward, because there are thousands of Republican seats at the state and local level that were lost on the Obama administration. He's got to get those back, and while doing all of this, he's got to raise millions and millions of dollars, which he doesn't have a track record doing.
Now, Bernie Sanders was also on State of the Union this morning with Jake Tapper, and he said the party needs to go back to its roots, go back to the working class people. What does it need to focus on when it comes to policies to draw those people back in, to draw that support base back?
Jobs, 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 and the economy. You know, Donald Trump didn't really bust through the blue wall. He dented it enough in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. He only won those states by 10 or 20,000 votes. But the white working class in America, when they hear the Democrats talking about progressive economics and an economy that's left them behind, they really don't believe that the Democrats are talking to them, but rather the Democrats are talking at them. And so the Democrats have to go over after those voters, black, brown, and white, who want a progressive economy that doesn't leave them behind. He's got to go after them, and he's got to tell them in real terms and show them in real terms that they're a big part of this economy. Because Donald Trump hasn't really done that, if you will. And given the unrest around the country, even at the town hall meetings with Republican legislatures who are going home to their districts, he hasn't done that. Look for the Republicans, those same Republicans at those town hall meetings who left the Democrats, to look for an alternative to come back to the Democratic Party. Tom Perez has got to give them a reason, a real reason, in order to do so.
And speaking about bringing them back to the party, your party wants President Trump to be a one-term president.
Absolutely.
How do you ensure that happens? How do you ensure that you get the Democratic supporters to vote at the midterms and the next election?
Well, you've got to organize, you got to energize, and you got to be unified. Donald Trump will cause a lot of problems for himself, and that juxtaposed with that organization at the ground-based level, with the money to support and send money to down-ballot candidates, to governors, to city council, to the state legislatures, you can win, because the Democrats were not that far off with the White House, but they lost thousands of seats at the state level and local level under Barack Obama. That's got to change.
And so what will his biggest challenges be going forward for Tom Perez?
Well, I think unifying the party and bringing the Sanders supporters. You can see that in the public statements, they're still pretty angry about Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison will be really important to bringing those progressives under the tent. He was deeply disappointed. I watched his facial expression. He did a good job on stage, but you could see he was really, really disappointed. He's got to turn that disappointment into energy and energize those backers and supporters of his, and roll his sleeves up, get them to roll their sleeves up. Tom Perez has to share power within the party, and they have to move forward together against Trump. The only way they're going to do that is if they walk the walk beyond talking the talk.
Scott Bolden, good to have you with us. Thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.